as a consumer protection or watchdog in regulating these people is a welcome development. So with the DION regulations, which is the digital, electronic, online, and the non-traditional lenders regulations, is more or less a regulation to control them, from lenders, to protect the consumers now, those who take loans from these companies, and to also provide a redress mechanism for them to lay complaints and also impose its penalties. So it provides for registration. So everyone in the space, in the lending space, they have to register with the FCCPC. And after that is done, they also have to comply. Well, it's not ideal. Well, it's not ideal, because in Nigeria, it's also very regulated, especially when you are operating in the lending space. We have the CBN, who regulate banks and other financial institutions. But what we usually have when it deals with one type of money lending is that there is a category of license called the money lender's license, and it's usually granted by states. So many of these people get this license and of course, they get it from the state government, and they start operating without taking other steps to comply with regards to protection of user data. And many of these tech companies as well, because due to, of course, we are in the age of technology, everything we do with our phone, the internet and all. So they take advantage of the internet, they build software applications, get the money lending license, and they more or less build for the technology, for the purpose of technology and getting money, not necessarily to comply with regulation. So it's not ideal, but it's a regulated space. So if they don't have a license, it means that they're actually violating the law. But the role of the FCCPC now, by passing this regulation, as a consumer protection watchdog, what they did is to make sure that predatory lending practices are curbed with this regulation. So that's
now let's get into the conversation better, because for me, I think a lot of consumers are still not clarified about this new regulation, so they need clarity, they need more awareness about this. I think it's high time we understand the regulatory framework about this new development, and what are the key provisions of the DION, the digital, electronic and online and non-traditional consumer lending regulations 2025, and how do these regulations protect consumers, aside from the fact of harassment?
Okay, so the regulations was passed last year, I think sometime in July, 21st of July 2025, and the key provisions includes, of course, the general purpose of that regulation is to protect consumers and also provide a regulatory framework for digital lenders to, or should I say lending institutions generally, to carry out their business practice in a responsible way. So the first thing is that it made for mandatory registration. So all digital lenders. So the regulation basically creates a broad scope of who are digital lenders. So it covers both regulated institutions, banks, and microfinance banks, so all down to even individuals. Like, so if you're an individual and you have a money lending license, you are more or less, by reason of the regulation, a lender under that regulation. So that's one. So they have to register, and failure to register means that they are operating illegally in Nigeria. So that's number one. The second is that it created a system of transparency. So more or less the way they handle user data, and user information, and also the interest rates. They have to very, very clearly state what those things are. So interest rates, for instance, one of the reasons why people are not able to pay back their loans is that you are, for instance, you are borrowing from them, and they tell you you have to pay 30% interest rate. And the next thing, the way they calculate it, it's unclear. They are saying 30% per week, whereas in your mind it's maybe 30% for the tenure of repayment. So they have to be very clear.
And coupled with the fact that if you are not meeting up with the deadline, the interest rates will be accumulating more and more.
And more and more. So those are some of the practices that this regulation is trying to curb. That you have to be very transparent, very clear, explaining to the simplest terms what this interest rate are and how do you calculate it. And even if you are doing it, it must not be too high. It must not be so high that it's unconscionable and unfair, because you borrowed me 100,000, you are collecting 240,000 naira.
That's a whole lot.
That's terrible. So that's what this regulation also does. Another thing also, I mentioned data protection earlier. You know, user data is very sensitive, so they have to handle it with care. So the regulation also provides for that. So you don't, well, even if you get access to my contact, you don't just call them and start harassing them. You don't just call them and start telling them, sending curses at them. And of course, I know the FCPC, they've worked with the Nigerian Data Protection Agency, the NDPA, to NDPC Commission, to
Nigeria Data Protection Commission.
Yes, to regulate the aspect of how users or consumers are harassed, especially in relation to frequent calls. Like you can get 50 calls in a day.
I think frequent call is still better. Some people will go as far as, you know, posting posters that this person is HIV, a criminal, has HIV, you know, slept with dog, a whole lot of harassment going out right there.
Absolutely, and that's what it's regulating. Of course, they've taken steps before the regulations. They've taken steps in the past to enforce against these institutions. Several fines have been meted out after investigation to many of them. So, but they put out these regulations for digital lenders to understand that these are important. And also the issue of the issue of penalties. So the enforcement mechanism, it's also very, so it's also stated there, what are these administrative penalties when you flout the regulations? So those are some of the key provisions in the...
And those insights are great, Barrister Emmanuel. Let's talk about the major challenges of digital lenders in perspective to those new regulations. What are the major challenges money lenders, you know, can face with these new regulations?
Well, no company operating in the because I would like to think of it's two-pronged.
Please bring it on.
So the challenges with regards to one, their business, and so how it's the impact on consumers or the users of the product. So, you know, from last year when the regulation was first passed, there was a period that was given for all existing digital lenders to regularize their, like, register, and if they've not regularized it, they are basically delisted and barred from operation. And that ended early this year, on 5th of January. So the impact now is that, number one, it's very expensive, in quotes. And so, for instance, you get a money lending license and you're operating from Lagos. Maybe you don't really have that much money. And now you have to pay some millions and go through a whole process to register with the FCPC. Well, I think they made it also easy from experience. It's not that difficult, but then they find it that, okay, it's too much regulation, over-regulation, too many things to comply with. So that's one of the challenge they have. So they also have the issue of registration. They have the issue also of compliance, because it now becomes more difficult to keep up with compliance in the space. So you have to comply with requirements of the NDPC. You have to comply with requirements of the FCPC. You have to comply with the requirements of the CBN. You have to comply with the requirements of the NCC, because digital lending in this case also covers issues. Even telecom companies are also covered. For instance, when you borrow credit from them, it also covers those kind of people. Like when you borrow airtime, it also covers, because that's digital lending as well. It covers not just cash, but extends even to other forms of lending or barter practices. So that's another challenge, the issue of compliance. And another one is the issue of the fact that if they can't register, they have to stop business. So it means now they have to now start spending more money with regards to legal, and maybe trying to find investors who will bring in money, compliance with regards to, because it's not just about registration, it's an ongoing requirement. The regulation provides for a renewal after every 3 years, and there are fees that they have to keep paying after every 3 years. And the regulation provides an amount for renewal, but it's also still discretionary. So the FCPC can decide to increase the renewal fees, whenever they decide to. So it also makes it very unsure and unstable for business. Of course, it's a business, and these people also there has to be certainty with regards to how much are we paying for, how much are we paying for compliance. So of course it takes up cost, but then I think it's an important regulation, and that's one of the challenge. And then the second challenge is when I mentioned with regards to consumers is that it now becomes very difficult to, let's say, because they have practice where, so how do we show that we have crossed the line? Where have we crossed the line? So they start thinking, how do we get back our money? Especially when you know, maybe you are, for instance, Nigerians are very difficult people to, when you borrow their money, it's very difficult to get back on. So what is good business practice to get back our money from people who are unwilling to pay? You understand? So that's another issue, like for them dealing with consumers. So they have to be very careful. And consumers themselves can, let's say, once they run away with the money, how would they get back their money? So that's why a lot of them carry out this predatory practice, which is, of course, it is condemnable. But then we have to balance it out, make it less expensive to comply with the law, and also make it easier for them to be able to, let's say, report consumers as well who refuse to, let's say, pay back their loans. There was no provision in that regard. So those are some of the challenges.
Interesting. You making mention of crossing the line, I think that will lead us through to this aspect or angle right now. What specific actions constitute harassment under the new regulations, and how will the FCCPC determine if a lender has crossed the line? Well,
so as a lawyer, I'll think of, in determining what it means to, of course, that one, they look at the facts. So you don't just determine by reason of this is what the person said. You look at the facts, you look at the situation, you look at the circumstance. So what the FCCPC does as a regulator is that they investigate. They look at the practice. Is it that user data was breached? Or should I say the consumer data was breached? That's one. Did they send unsolicited messages to third parties? Were there frequent calls and threatening messages? So those are some of the things they look at when they look at the facts. So there's a redress mechanism, a complaint mechanism. So I feel what the FCP does is that they look at the facts, because and they look at both sides. So that's where they now determine that, okay, this is actually, and of course that also determines the severity of the penalty of the fine they met out to the erring party. So that's
all right. If you're just joining us now, this is Consumer Watchdog on ConsumerHallaTV, where we inform consumers about their right, protection and safety. And this morning on the program, we're having a detailed conversation about the FCCPC new regulations on money lenders. And with me in the studio for more clarity, helping us dissect this pressing issue, we have Barrister Romano. Barrister Romano, let me have your standpoint on this issue. What are the necessary measures you think FCCPC has to take to protect consumers from predatory lending practice, and how effective are these measures?
The measures they have to take. Well, I think the most they can do is, the first thing they can do is basically, of course, regulation, which they are doing well in that regard. So, and we've had issues where they've had to take down apps from app stores, from several digital
platforms. So is it that the consumers that borrowed money before taking out the app are not going to pay the money? Or?
Well, no, I'm saying they've enforced against erring lenders,
okay, all right,
where they've had to take down some of these apps. Then, am I answering the question correctly?
Yes, please go on.
Yes, they've also taken steps to impose fines ranging from 10 million to 20 million on erring lenders. That's another step they've taken. So aside from regulation, telling them this is how you play, some of them, like I mentioned, some of them are not aware. It's just a practice. It's just a business practice which is unfair. And that's all they know. So now the FCC has, okay, they've come out and like, so look at this regulation. This is what you have to do to be compliant, from registration to how you go after erring lenders or delinquent debtors in that sense. And they've done that as well. And of course, also they've also created a redress mechanism. So I think what they need to do more now is in the area of consumer education. Awareness as well. So you have to, not just consumer, but also everyone in every stakeholder, from the lending companies to the borrowers as well, the general public. Let them know, this is what you have to do. This is the steps. These are the steps you can take when they. So it's not. It has to be balanced, but you know, it of course it's still consumer protection as well. You have to also make sure that people are protected from unfair lending practices. So those are some of the steps they've taken, and I also think they also have to look at the regulation as well. They should look at the criticisms of stakeholders and update that regulation from time to time to accommodate present realities. So for instance, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like the requirements for registration is too hectic, and the period of renewal is too short. That's my own personal criticism of the law or of regulation in that sense. So they should look at these criticisms and, of course, take steps to regulate, or should I say update that law to make it easy. Because at the end of the day, we're looking at ease of doing business. So they should make it easy as well for money lenders. But yeah, so those are some of the things they can do. Not push people out of the market, because this regulation definitely will push a lot of people. Some people won't be able to operate anymore. That's what it does. And it will lead to some form of, it reduces access to credit as well. So when your normal lender is no longer operating, even though they are trusted, because of they are unable to comply or they failed to comply with regulations as such, they won't be able to carry on business. So they should make it easier for people to be able to.
Let's review without critics right now, looking at the lending industry in abroad, the UK, the USA, and the lending industry in Nigeria. We can see that the gap is very, the gap is much. How can the digital lending industry in Nigeria balance growth with regulatory compliance, and as well including it with consumer protection?
So the lending industry, balance growth. Well, I'm a tech lawyer as well, and I like to think that compliance must be built into the tech as such. So you are not just building a tech product, you are building a financial institution as well. So when you are, so most of tech companies, we have a lot of them. I can mention names?
Just make mention of one.
Yeah,
okay.
So for instance, we could, let's say Fair Money, for instance, or OPay. They also provide products as well. So you don't just build a tech product and put it out there and get people to borrow, and you build compliance into it. So from the moment when you are onboarding the user, they're already aware that, okay, these are the interest rates. While you are building, you're already taking steps to get these licenses. Even if you are collaborating with existing institutions, you're also making sure they are informing the regulator. So we are not just building in isolation. So I think in Nigeria, compared to other parts of the world, we are getting it right. At least we are stepping up. We have one of the most advanced fintech ecosystem in the world. A lot of our transactions now in Nigeria are electronic compared to even some of the developed countries of the world. So I think in that aspect, we're doing very well. Of course, I think the issue we have now are issues relating to regulation and over-regulation. So those are some of the issues we have now. But for growth, compliance should be built into that process. So when you are building, you have the regulators in mind. What are they saying? How do we? So you also try to take proactive steps by reaching out to them. So for instance, you are building something very innovative in the lending space. Let's say you're building something where people can trade by barter in that sense. Okay, who are the regulators I have to work with? Are there specific regulations around this? If there are none, go to the nearest regulator and inform them, this is what I'm doing. What steps do I have to take to comply? So you build it into the product. So I think that is the best way they can balance it. Not you build, then you now start struggling to comply. Before you know it, your investors are off. Before you know it, the banks are already, if you borrowed money, you are not doing business. They're already calling for a repayment. Before you know it, business is down and you start struggling. So I think that's the.
All right, the conversation is still going on, but let's go on a short break. I find something to munch on and enjoy this program. But also, it's Consumer Watchdog on ConsumerHallaTV. We'll be right back. Let's go on a short break. Hello consumers, you have the right to be heard, absolutely. So join us on the conversation, share your brand experience, where you tell us all your experiences about brand on the outer world via our YouTube channel every Wednesday from the hour of 4:20 to 5:20. You can watch us via our YouTube channel, ConsumerHallaTV, and subscription is free. Follow us on all our social media platforms, ConsumerHallaTV. Share your brand experience. It's about storytelling. It's about experiences.
Hello consumers, you're welcome to another exciting episode of Consumer Voice on ConsumerHallaTV. I am Matilda Omenai. As you already know, Consumer Voice is a show where we'll be visiting different places in Lagos to check out people's preferences, hear what the consumers have to say about different leading brands that they make use of.
Hello, it's your boy here, Iremofe Koforola, and you know what? They call me the AUF General Overseer. Every day is a blessing and it is meant to be enjoyed maximally with AUF packages that put a smile on our faces. And guess what? That is why this show AUF is for you. You can get to know about trending market slashes, promos, offers and juicy deals that put a smile on your faces, and you can always enjoy them maximally. And you know one thing that is so interesting about this show? It is a blend of English and Pidgin. As I dey run you English, now I go dey marry am with Pidgin, make am spicy. So catch me every time on the show to enjoy more about trendy AUF packages. Peace.
Public services.
Good to be back again here. If you're just joining us on the conversation, this is Consumer Watchdog on ConsumerHallaTV, where we inform consumers about the right and safety that they need to know in our economy. And today we're talking about something very critical that we need to pay our attention to, talking about the SCCPC, the new regulations on money lenders. And for proper understanding, we have Barrister in the studio, Barrister Romano. Barrister Romano, now let's continue with the conversation. Now taking it back when we started the conversation, I remembered fully well that you made mention of the new regulations would help the digital lenders to be able to be transparent. And now talking about transparency, let's start from this place. How would the SCCPC ensure that digital lenders are transparent about the long terms and interest rates, and what constitutes the fair practice?
Okay, so for transparency, I think it's what the FCCPC have done with the regulation is that they made it a necessary requirement for compliance. They didn't just say operate. They are saying you have to be clear with the digital lenders, because sometimes people don't have time to read the terms and conditions. So they are like you have to make it very simple enough for people to understand that, okay, if I'm borrowing 10,000 naira, I'll be paying back this amount at so time. So that's what the FCC have done. So if there is a violation of this particular requirement, they won't really know except someone reports.
Now, I was about going there. That what are the consequences for lenders who fail to register with the FCCPC or comply with the new regulations?
Well, for non-compliance, number one is that they can't even operate in this space. If they are operating illegally, because it's now a legal requirement. So the FCCPC Act actually empowers the Federal Commission on Consumer Protection Commission to regulate in that regard. So they're operating illegally. And the second is that if they were already listed, they're listed as a money lender, like they have their license revoked. So they're already registered. So that's another consequence for non-compliance, because the major provisions for compliance is not just about registering with the FCPC. You have to comply with everything they say with regards to how you deal with consumers. And to be honest, they really won't know if a consumer does not report or a user does not report or they investigate. So it means that, and they also made provisions for reporting and redress in the regulation. So if you feel, okay, this particular lending app or this particular money lender, they are not doing things properly, or maybe their lending practices are unfair, report to the FCPC. And they impose fines as well. So aside from the listing, they also impose fines if they find them guilty, and of course, there are cases where individuals, aside from going to the FCPC, they can take up, let's say, or the FCPC can take up maybe criminal action, or can also lead to civil liability as well for the company. So those are some of the protective measures that are in place for the general public, especially when they are dealing with predatory lenders in that sense. So.
All right, I believe that this regulation, of course, will tame a whole lot of things, but for the sake of the consumers who are out there, I believe, oh, this is Nigeria, anything goes. What recourse do borrowers have if they are experiencing harassment or unfair treatment from a lender, and how can they report this incident?
So the FCPC, they have a platform where, of course, lawyers like to be consulted. Go and meet a lawyer. But before you even go to a lawyer, by yourself, you can report to the FCPC. You can just, I think they have a website portal where you can just go to, even an email address. They can just send your complaints to, narrate the entire incident to them, include receipts of maybe evidence you have, maybe text messages or emails, and send to them. And they will take it up and investigate. And the law requires that the commission begin investigation after 24 hours of receipt. That's what the regulation also provides for as well. So they have a duty to also investigate. So don't say, okay, if I report, they won't do anything. Report, then they will take it up and start investigating. And they issue fines from as high as, depending on the fact as well. But in the regulation, I was seeing fines for, let's say, for individuals for failing to register. There were fines of maybe about 50 million. Then for companies, about 100 million. So it's hefty. It's a lot. But then I think it's a good one. At least you know that there is a place you can run to when you are a victim, in quote now, of some of these lending practices.
Barrister, I think I need to give you your kudos about that update, and because a lot of consumers still believe that after the harassment, when it comes to reporting to the right channels like FCCPC and some other regulatory bodies, they're always reluctant. Having the mentality that we will not get the right treatment. They will not when it comes to talking about consumers getting their rights being hurt, it's being maltreated, it's being abused, it's being tampered on. This makes a lot of consumers get really relaxed, reluctant, not reporting the right things at the right authorities. But I think with this your analysis, this would give them an hint of, okay, doing the right thing at the right time. Just take the step first and see what will come of it. Thank you so much for that. How will the FCCPC work with other agencies such as the Nigeria Data Protection Commission to address data privacy concerns and protect borrowers in regards to personal information?
Well, I know they've been working together, especially the FCCPC and the NDPC. As far back as when the NDPC was still NITDA, I know they have a joint task force where they jointly investigate and of course penalize some of these area institutions. Like there are several cases that they've done. So I know there's interagency collaboration in that regard. And I also know aside from the NDPC, they also collaborate with law enforcement agencies like the EFCC, the police, especially in cases of fraud or in cases where a crime has been committed. And of course, the NCC as well, the Nigerian Communications Commission, they collaborate with them. So the FCPC is more or less like a super regulatory agency, because when they talk about consumer protection, it deals with all sectors of the economy. So it means that they have to also collaborate with all these sector regulators, especially when it deals with, let's say, issues relating to consumer protection for those agencies. Or, you know, they also regulate competition when we're looking at unfair business practice from one business to the other, and of course setting up anti-competitive measures to regulate the industry. So they collaborate with a lot of industry. And I know they have a joint task force with the NDPC when it deals with data privacy concerns.
Barrister Emmanuel, we are moving gradually to the end of the conversation, but right now curiosity make me ask, because there are a lot of consumers at home watching us, and that's this question will be crossing their mind. How long do you think this will take if a consumer, you know, reports any harassment? How much do you what's the duration of this issue being sorted out?
So it depends, because it depends. I know I've handled one that took a period of less than 3 months. Yeah, and I know there are some that they've not even attended to. So it depends on what they consider worthy. But the moment you report, they usually open the case like within a short period of time and they start investigating.
You made mention of that there are still some cases pending.
Yes.
What could be the cause of that? Is it that they've not gotten to the root of the matter, or there is still a whole lot of uncertainty around
it could be that, number one, that maybe there are no, of course, you know, it's Nigeria, so a lot of things may have gone through maybe the administrative works, and they think it's not the case that they need to pursue. So maybe there's not a failure to communicate back to the consumer that, okay, we've looked at it. We don't think you have a strong case as such. That's one. I think that's one. That may be one reason. Number two, maybe issues related to personnel. Maybe they don't have a lot of people looking at it, or someone just mixed it up. But I know the FCPC, they've been doing a good job, especially with regards to consumer enforcement and protection. They've been doing a good job so far, and it also depends too, because some may take a longer period of time to investigate, some may shorter period of time to investigate. And I know they usually call them for meetings, they ask questions during that period of investigation as well. So,
all right, it's been a very interesting one on the conversation, and I must say you've made a whole lot of insight, which there is a whole lot to munch on. Thank you so much, Barrister Emmanuel. Now to end the conversation, let's have your parting shot. And what advice would you give to consumers who are, you know, experiencing problems with digital lenders?
Well, so the first thing is to make sure that you're also not violating the law.
In what sense?
You're not harassing them in return. So, you know, Nigerians, they insult you, you want to do your own back. So that's the first thing. Try to also be calm, and of course, let them know that what they are doing is against the law. There are times that it's difficult to pay back, of course, you're the one owing money. It doesn't mean that they now make you lose your dignity because you're owing money. So if the harassment, if you warn them and they continue, you report to the FCPC, or you contact a lawyer to help you take it up. And usually I advise you go through a lawyer so that at least they can give you preliminary advice on what steps to take and all the options available to you. So that's I think what I would say. And also, you're a consumer, you have a right. You know, a lot of people are not aware that they have rights as consumers.
Thank you so much. That is one of the main issues we are facing in Nigeria. A lot of consumers do not know the right they have.
Yeah. So you have to be aware that you have a right. As a consumer, you have a right to dignity of human person.
Right to safety.
To safety. Your data is sensitive. So if they are calling your pastor because you are owing money, that's serious. Or they are calling a business partner. I had a client once, and I was called, like, do you know this person? And at the end of the day, realized that the person did not even take a loan. So that's another issue as well, because they do, and that's another issue with lenders. there's a way they automate it such that even without taking the loan, they put it in your name that you actually took a loan from them. So those are some of the, even in the regulation, it's actually provided for there, like they regulate it as well. So those are some of the issues. So once these things happen, you don't just overreact and maybe violate the law in return. You go through the right channels, speak to a lawyer, or like I mentioned, like also report directly to the FCPC as a Nigerian, and they'll respond as well.
It's been a very beautiful one, I must say, but this conversation will not be well ironed if I don't make mention of this. Do you think it's appropriate for the money lenders to reach out to family members, friends, because it is what we see right now? They just, any little thing, they contact, this person is owing and you have to pay, mounting it on, family, relative. Do you think it's proper?
It's not proper in my opinion, even though they try to find a way around it using data privacy contracts to say, okay, you give consent. I feel like the only people that should be contacted are parties to that transaction. And who are the parties to a lending transaction usually? We have the lender, we have the borrower, and we have either a guarantor or a shortee. So if there are no clearly mentioned guarantors or shortees, I don't think you should reach out to anyone else or harass anyone else because of, so someone is owing you. So, and the regulation should provide for that you don't reach out to third parties or harass them in return. So it's not proper, it's not appropriate. And yeah, that's why you should also complain when these things happen. Don't let it, because the more they complain against a particular institution, the more they are flagged on the radar of the FCPC, the more sanctions will be taken against them. I know in the past, so many lending institutions, so many were deregistered. I think sometime in last year, I think they do it frequently, where they delist platforms and they remove them, like inform the public that this platform has been delisted and warn them from working or operating in Nigeria. And of course, so for me, they've been doing a good job because it has reduced. I don't know if you observed. I don't know. For recently, I don't get those messages anymore. Because people I don't even know. There was someone the one that shocked me was there was someone that was on the opposing side of a transaction I worked on. And something happened and they were sending me messages on WhatsApp about this person. And I forgot the person until I had to now think, oh, okay. So it's unfair actually. So, but yes, and the law, of course, it's a good one, and I'm glad that they've taken this upon themselves too.
I'm also glad about it. Thank you so much, Barrister Emmanuel Indiang. I hope I got Inyada. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation. And now this is where we draw the curtain. Of course, it's been a insightful one, and the new SCCPC regulations on money lenders. He said a whole lot of things, but I think for me, one thing that is a take home is to ensure that we consumers always make sure that we know our rights. Knowing our rights is very vital and it's pivotal. And aside from that, we should always have access to information, which is very, very important. Thank you so much for joining us. We're back again next week on another beautiful edition of Consumer Watchdog on ConsumerHallaTV. I am Ire Ayomikule Eke. Please remember to follow us on all our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are out of the studio. Stay out of trouble. Bye for now.
My name is Tunde Olufowora. I'm the CEO of Bandai Communications. We are we call the publisher or the owner of the new initiative called ConsumerHallaTV. ConsumerHallaTV is actually Nigeria's first consumer-centered, or called a consumer-centric television platform that aims to bring voice to the over 220 million Nigerians. It was a vision that came to my heart about 10 years ago. I remember that I was traveling. I traveled out of the country, on airline. And I had this unpleasant experience It was a trip to an African country from Nigeria, and I actually went with a local flight from Nigeria. I wouldn't want to mention the name of the airline, and then it was to South Africa, and we landed in South Africa, and let me just paraphrase it. When I was coming back, I had some money, some dollars, and that someone had given to me to hand over to another person in Nigeria. So I wanted to help out. I didn't want to carry the cash on myself. So for whatever reason, I opted to. I had a small case, and I felt that it was safer for me to put the money in my luggage. So I put it in a safe place in my luggage, got everything intact, and I checked in my luggage. My arrival in Nigeria, I was standing and was waiting about the carousel just so that I could pick up my luggage, and then I was there for 1 hour and waiting for my luggage. I didn't know that my luggage already arrived, and it was one of the luggage that was moving around on the carousel. So after about 1 hour wait, I looked to my left and my right. Almost everybody had gone. I think there were just about 2 or 3 left. So I beckoned on the woman that was on my side, and I noticed she was really in tears. Madam, what happened? She said, her bag has just been torn and a lot of things stolen. So I said, well, I've also been waiting for my own. She said, you better go and check those luggages there. Maybe yours is one of them. And lo and behold, I went around there. Mine was one of them. By the time I got it, everything inside my luggage was gone. All the valuable things there were gone. To cut the long story short, we felt there was need for us to report the case, at least to the airline. It was in the night, about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. We went in to go and see the officer that was in charge. As soon as we got in there, the officer said, "Oh, so sorry, but you will have to go to our head office in somewhere in Victoria Island, to lodge a complaint." Okay. So the next day we went to the Victoria Island and we lodged a complaint, and that was it. And since that day, I'm talking a story of over 10 years ago, I didn't get a call, not even a call from that airline to talk to me about what happened to my luggage. Now, about a month after that trip, I had another opportunity to travel out of the country. This time around it was to US, and it was an official assignment. And I flew on, I will mention the airline this time around. I flew on a BA. I really didn't like BA. I usually go with Virgin Atlantic and things like that. But my protocol officer convinced me and said, "Okay, you will love BA. Why don't you go on BA?" Anyway, so I went on BA to US. And of course, when I returned from US to Nigeria, we had to do, of course, there'll be like a connecting flight, from Heathrow. So we got into London Heathrow, and then because it was through Heathrow that we went, and then so they changed since it was BA, they changed the aircraft this time around to a bigger one. I mean, clearly because there were more Nigerians, more people that were planning to come to Nigeria, and then we boarded. Not quite 10 minutes into the flight, in the air, the aircraft started malfunctioning. The air conditioning compartment were not functioning very well. I was on what you call business economy. The whole of that business economy all the way to economy side, the ACs were not working well. It was hot. And then I was watching. And then from that moment till we got to Nigeria. From that moment till we got to, I'm just trying to paraphrase, from that moment till we got to Nigeria, I could remember very well how many times the pilot, broken into conversation and had to apologize and say, we're really very sorry about this. He was giving us almost every 10, I could almost say almost every 30 minutes. There's always a kind of update. So sorry, this is what we're doing now, this is what we're doing. While we were on that journey, I also remember an incident. So they came, the crew apparently couldn't resolve it. They couldn't manage the crisis or what was going on about it. They couldn't fix it. So they come up and said, we're so sorry, but for all the inconvenience, we're declaring, free lunch, free whatever it is you want, you can get. So trust Nigerians, you need to hear how everybody was jubilating, But something struck me. The experience I had just about a month before, and this experience, somehow I started comparing them. I was trying to see how this matter will be managed. Again, to cut the story short, we landed in Nigeria on a BA. Before we landed, the pilot announced and said that for the inconvenience, they will be giving a voucher of £50 to everyone that flew on that aircraft. I thought it was a joke. I mean, it was my first time with BA, but for what I knew or know of the British man would never even play with his 1 penny, talking of £1. So I felt that must be a joke of the year. So we left. I got back to my office. I think it was just about a week after. Our guys in our mail room came up and said, "Oh, you have a parcel." So I said, "Parcel? Yeah." So they bought this parcel, wrapped. I opened it, and boom, I bought the document out. It was the £50 voucher from BA. So what's the tenor of this story? An experience with one airline was terrible, no apology. An experience with another one, even though it was a bad experience, but it was very well managed. So managed that even if we have suffered anything in that aircraft, you probably, for the sake of how they manage it, will have forgiven them. So that was how this journey started. So I started thinking in my mind, this is what we go through in this country. But are we different from other nations? So God put in my heart the idea of ConsumerHalla. That's why the Halla came consumer. And we started that journey about 10 years ago. We started by creating a platform called ConsumerHalla, where consumers, so I discovered that African consumers don't have a voice. So things happen and sit. We live with everything. So we've started the journey from creating the platform. We have an app, we even have a magazine, and we thought we could move it from that to the next stage, which is the television. So the TV today, has come. So I would say precept by precept, line upon line, we have been able to build on our aspiration, to finally bring to birth this unique and exciting platform, So it's a digital telecast, and our goal is to further connect consumers in Nigeria to brands with insightful news, development within the fast-paced world of consumers. The world of consumers is growing at a very fast pace, So we want to inform Nigerians. We want to get them educated about their rights, So our role is that we're going to educate consumers in Nigeria, all right? So by bringing them specialized and what you call analytical, research-based content generation that will inform, educate, sensitize the audience, So that's ConsumerHallaTV. So I call it an offshoot of our ConsumerHalla brand. ConsumerHalla brand actually was the first consumer, we call it the first complaint or consumer complaint resolution portal. When we started it about 10 years ago, or about 7 years ago, it became the first complaint resolution portal. We created it so that Nigerians can actually lodge complaint on that portal. We spent a lot of resources to build a very robust platform where today, if you have any complaint, about any brand, any leading brands in Nigeria, and you go on that platform, you can actually click, just a click, you can find the brand, you can actually lodge your complaint, and once you submit it, that complaint will be routed to that organization, and within 72 hours, we will obtain feedback for you. We build it in such a way that we have connection to almost all the organizations, and it's been working. We've resolved several complaints for people without having to charge them any penny, because the idea is not to charge. So what we have done with ConsumerHalla TV,
All right, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on the Midday News this afternoon. I am Iri Ayomikunle, aka. We begin the Midday News at ConsumerHallaTV News with education. As we all know that education is the future of each nation. And about that, the federal government has unveiled a $552 million Hope for Quality Basic Education for All program aimed at accelerating the reforms in Nigeria's basic education sector. This was contained in a statement issued today in Abuja by Folashade Buriowo, the Director of Press and Public Relations at the Federal Ministry of Education. According to the statement, the initiative is facilitated by the ministry and is well designed to improve the foundational learning and as well to expand the access to quality basic education and strengthen the education system across participating states. Mrs. Boriwo quoted the Minister of Education, Dr. Tuje Lausa, as saying that the program aligns with the Nigeria Education Sector Renewal Initiative and is structured to promote measurable, transparent, and result-based reforms. Away from that, Mr. John Alamo, founder and group managing director of Capital Sage Holdings, has called for accelerated investment in value addition and agricultural industrialization as a defining strategy for Ondo State long-term economic transformation. Speaking at the Ondo Investment Summit for this year theme with the new Ondo Fortune and Pathway to Prosperity, Mr. Alamo urged investors and policymakers to prioritize the large-scale processing, manufacturing, and integrated value chain development as the foundation for sustainable growth. They noted that while Ondo State possesses the agricultural debt, there is a strategic positioning and human capital which is to become a leading industrial hub, and as well with real prosperity, and this would depend on the scale of investment that is committed to transforming the agricultural output into higher value product. Breaking news says the Dangote Petroleum Refinery has increased its price of petrol by 101 naira, raising the ex-depot rate from 774 naira to 875 naira per litre, and as well the heightening concerns over the fresh fuel price increases across the country. A senior official at the refinery confirmed the development to newsmen yesterday, noting that the adjustment followed recent volatility in global crude oil prices. The senior official statement says the new price has been reviewed and the new gantry price is now 875 naira per litre from 774 naira. The review became so necessary due to changes in global crude fundamental and replacement costs. Checks done by journalists confirmed that the revised price had already been reflected, indicating a shift in downstream pricing benchmarks. In a new report, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will tomorrow swear in Mr. Olatunji Disu as the substantive Inspector General of Police following the unanimous endorsement of his appointment by the Nigeria Police Council yesterday. The swearing-in ceremony will take place during the Federal Executive Council meeting scheduled for the same day. And the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Ononuga, made the announcement yesterday. The council meeting held at the State House in Abuja was presided over by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and attended by the Vice President Kashim Shettima, State Governors, and the Chairman of the Police Service Commission, retired DIG Ashimu Arungugu, in accordance with constitutional provisions. Meanwhile, also in attendance of the event, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nur Ribado, the Chief of Staff, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, the Minister of Police Affairs, Senator Ibrahim Gaidam, and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, with the Head of Service, Mrs. Esther Wilson Jack. Let's move to Akure, the capital of Ondo State, where the federal government has approved 4 billion naira each for 12 selected engineering and technology universities to rehabilitate workshops and procure modern equipment. This was disclosed by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tuja Lausa, yesterday during the inauguration of the Implementation Committee on Tertiary Education Trust Fund Special High Impact Intervention Project in Abuja. The intervention targets the rehabilitation of engineering and technology faculties in federal universities of technology and conventional universities nationwide. However, Dr. Alausa explained that the funds would either upgrade existing facilities or support the construction of new engineering workshops when necessary. But still talking about education, and now the Nigerian Education Loan Fund has approved an extension of its student loan application portal following a surge in applications from students across the country. This was disclosed in a statement by Mrs. Oseyemi Oluwatoyi, Director of Strategic Communications at NEL Fund. The extension comes after the fund had earlier reminded the public that the portal was set to close on the 27th of February this year. According to NEL Fund, the extension by some additional days is to ensure all eligible students are given an adequate opportunity to complete their applications, pending further management decisions and communications. And right now, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court of Nigeria, Justice John Tosho, has responded to his invitation by the Code of Conduct Bureau over his asset declaration from expressing his commitment to transparency regarding the development. His response is contained in a press release sent to newsmen by Dr. Catherine Obi Christopher, Director of Information at the Federal High Court of Nigeria, yesterday, with a titled Chief Judge Representation and Proposed Date for Appearance before the Code of Conduct Bureau. The Federal High Court clarified that Justice John remains fully committed to cooperating with the Code of Conduct Bureau in respect of its invitation. And right now on Education Back, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board has announced that a total of 2 million candidates have registered for this year Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination. The figures were disclosed in the latest bulletin released by the board and signed by its public communication advisor, Mr. Fabian Benjamin. This comes as registration for this year UTME approaches its final deadline on the 26th of March, with the examination scheduled to hold nationwide from the 16th of April to the 25th of April this year. The board confirmed that a total of about 2 million candidates successfully completed the registration for this year UTME exercise across the country. And at a separate press briefing, the registrar of JAM, Mr. Riziak Oloyede, disclosed that the board uncovered syndicate using AI-generated fake images and videos of senior officials to defraud candidate. It thereby revealed that with the approval of the Minister of Education, the board would delete not fewer than 100 UTME registrations of candidates found to have solicited score inflation through the syndicate. And now let's tell you that the federal government has commenced the implementation of Executive Order 9 of 2026, which mandated direct remittance of oil revenues into the Federation Account Allocation Committee. The move follows the inaugural meeting of the Implementation Committee for the Executive Order held on the 26th of February this year. However, Mr. Wale Edun, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, announced the development in the statement yesterday, highlighting resolutions from the meeting. The minister emphasized that the committee reaffirmed the President's directive that revenues occurring to the Federation from petroleum operations must be managed in a manner that upholds constitutional principles, safeguard Federation revenues, and support fiscal stability across the 3 tiers of government. Let's now move to the office of the Accountant General of the Federation. As a new report says, the office has announced that it has received approval to pay 1 month's wage award out of the 3-month outstanding. The dispute over the wage award has lingered for more than 2 years following the federal government approval of a 70,000 naira minimum wage after the removal of fuel subsidy. Labour leaders noted that although the partial payment were made following the sustained pressure, 3-month pay have remained unpaid since July 2024, increasing hardship among federal workers. And they accused the government of withholding funds earmarked for workers, and also claiming that the relevant agencies were ready to process payment, which had the Ministry of Finance to release the money. However, just last Friday, the organized labor in the Federal Public Service issued an ultimatum to the federal government demanding the immediate release of funds to clear 3 months of outstanding wage awards and other unpaid allowances owed to workers across ministries, departments, and agencies. We've come to the end of the media news this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I am Iri Ayomikunle Eke. Before we go this afternoon, please follow us on all our social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel, ConsumerHallaTV. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon.
Is to take it to the next level. So we hope to, change the narrative. We want to, give, the right direction. Nigeria has the largest consumer market in the world, with a population of over 220 million people. Why should we be the one that is suffering the most? Everywhere you turn to, it's as though Nigerian consumers don't have a voice. you're traveling, you buy a ticket. For whatever reason, an airline will wake up middle of the night, delay the flight for whatever reason, and then you'll be waiting at the airport for hours. You'll be there for 2 hours, 3 hours, no any explanation. Then while you're there, they can even wake up and say, oh, flight has been cancelled. So everybody carry their luggage and go home. Nothing happened. Of course, things are changing. We must commend government because government is beginning to wake up, but there's still a lot to be done. And we believe that we can help to make, those bring about those right changes. So we offer deliberately, part of what we do is that we also offer advocacy. All right. We're not just an advocacy organization, but we offer advocacy. We have a legal team. We have lawyers that are registered on our platform, all right, that can also take up cases. Okay. So, and we've taken up many cases like that, and won those cases. So ConsumerHalla is a platform to help consumers to, we're not fighting brand, but rather we say we're bringing about an amicable, resolution of conflict, such that it will be beneficial to the consumers and also be beneficial to the brand. I remember the word of Jeff Bezos. Bezos is the founder of Amazon. He said that the most important single thing, all right, for an organization is to focus obsessively, use the word obsessively, on the customer. We often say that customers is a king. They should sit at the top of the ladder. In our environment, customers are the ladder. A brand wakes up today, decide what product to produce. They wake up today, decide how much the consumer should pay. They wake up to decide everything for consumers. So consumers are just at the receiving end, and yet they are milking the consumers. There's no price regulation in this country, none. People just wake up and fix prices. Look at power. Government wakes up, we change policy, we wake up and we get people to pay more. We think it's time for consumers to begin to speak out. In speaking out, in engaging, we can get the brand to begin to do what is right. And of course, I know that the consumers themselves need to be educated. So our role, our vision also is to ensure that we educate consumers. We bring awareness. A lot of Nigerian consumers don't even know about their rights. You buy a product from a supermarket. I've had this experience. You buy a product from a supermarket, all right? For whatever reason, you take that product back to your house, and maybe something went wrong somewhere. By the time you take that product back to the shop where you bought it from, and you say, "Oga, this thing, you know what's going to tell you? Oga, na me make am. Na me make am, that's why I buy am." Meaning that there's nothing I can do to the product. So you lose the product, then you lose your money, because the money is not refunded. The product you can't use. Only in Nigeria. Only in Nigeria. Let me give you another experience I had. In the course of this, because I went around, in doing this. I was in US, I was in UK, I was in South Africa, I was in Germany, just because of this, to just study the environment. I was in a friend's house in UK, in London, and then what happened? We were going to go out, and he was going to dress up. So he said, oh, to me, I was seated in his sitting room. So he said, oh, wait a minute, I picked up an iron, that's the pressing iron, 2 days ago or so from a store. Oh, let me try this, let me just try and use that to iron my shirt and we can go out. So I was seated, the TV was on, I was watching. while I watched him, he brought out the pressing board, spread it out, brought the iron out in my presence, plugged in the iron, and then as soon as he switched on the power button, we just had a spark. Boom! The guy was raged. Then he goes, what just happened? So he said, no, these guys are in trouble, they're in soup. I was thinking, what are you going to do? I was trying to compare that experience to what would have happened in Nigeria. In my presence there, he opened the pack. There was a card inside it. Inside that card was a call, number to call. And he called the shop or wherever he got the thing from. I was hearing the conversation that was going on. And all he said to them on the phone was, look, by the time he even called, clearly because they already, through the call, they could trace where he was calling from and who was calling. He said, yeah, I picked up this number, I picked up this iron yesterday, and guess what? I just plugged it to power, and then this thing just, stopped, didn't work. At the other hand, I could hear the voice, oh, we're so sorry. We're sorry about that. And they said, this is your address, yeah. Don't worry, we'll get you a replacement. All right. So my friend ended the call and dropped the. So I said, so what's going to happen? He said, don't worry yourself now. Shebi, we're here. They will bring a replacement. I said, they will bring a replacement. He said, yes. I said, they won't even try to check whether it was your fault, because it could have been your fault. Maybe you didn't do something well about the first. No, it can't be his fault. Shebi is a brand new item that he bought. While we were still talking, in fact, I'm not even sure it was up to 30 minutes or so, we had a knock on the door. He himself said he must be the dispatch person. By the time he opened the door, it was a dispatch man that was on the other side. And then the dispatch man was at the door. Just watch this. Was at the door. I was seated in the sitting room. The guy was at the door to meet with the dispatch guy. The dispatch man that brought the replacement iron, I heard him say, we're so sorry. So I was so shocked. I mean, a dispatch man, this guy is a dispatch, so also apologize. I was so touched by it that even a dispatch man was so trained, to tell the guy, we are so sorry. And guess what? He brought the replacement iron. By the time my guy opened the iron, it was a bigger size iron. So they replaced with a bigger size iron. The guy never asked for the one that went bad. He didn't say, okay, where is the other one that we gave to you, so that he could take it back? No, he just bought a new one and gave it back. So I asked my friend, I said, can you interpret this to me? He said, here in London, if they didn't do this, they know the next thing I would do. So I'm just going to grab a lawyer. And I'm going to tell them they've destroyed something in my house. By the time I'm done, they will pay through their nose. Because the consumers are conscious of their rights. In Nigerian consumers, even those who are aware, won't even take the battle up. Everybody just go, what can we do now? Today they wake up and ban this. What can we do now? So we're going to change the narrative. We have to stand up. So the vision of ConsumerHallaTV is really to create an engagement platform that constantly mirrors the minds of consumers and provides right connections for meaningful brands in Nigeria. Thus, we believe, will be forming part of that our overall vision, of creating a more caring world of consumers where businesses thrive. Please. So, I think that we'll make our impact. We ask you to join us on this journey. ConsumerHallaTV will drive engagement. It will also be there to help to promote brands that are doing what is right. So we're not out to criticize any brand. Rather, we are out to complement what the brands are doing, because there is no organization that or a business that was set up to fail. Nobody set up a business to fail. So there are just gaps that needs to be fixed. So together we can fix things, and together we believe that we will create the right story for consumers in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Nigeria. Welcome to Scam Alert on ConsumerHallaTV. I am Kikelomo Ajibola. In case you are just joining us for the first time, thank you so much for tuning into ConsumerHallaTV. And if you've been watching Scam Alert, thank you so much for staying connected. This particular program is designed solely for all of us as individuals and as society as a whole. Scam Alert is that particular program that discusses the dubious ways and the various ways these scammers use or attempt to take our belongings financially, emotionally, and psychologically away from us. Falling victim of scam is something that is a bitter experience. It is never sweet for anybody that has fallen victim of a scam. And this morning, as I was coming from home to work, I came across a video of a young girl that was talking about not helping people on the street of Lagos because most of them are scammers. And while she was narrating the story, it felt so sad that people on the street, some of them are very much in need of this money, but because a lot of scammers are using this avenue to collect money, to scalp money from people, then it has now become an awareness for her to pick up her phone and tell people and say, you see what, don't give people on the street money. I would never do it again, even though I love to help people. What was her story? She spoke about the fact that there was a man between 60 years old to around 70 years old. She couldn't say the exact date, the year of the age of the man, beg your pardon, but she was like, the man looked between 60s at his early 70s. And he came to our workplace. She was working at her office, and it was like, oh, my daughter, I came here to drop my CV, you know, but I've not gotten back to me. And she was like, where did you drop your CV to? Because she felt so sad for the man because he looked helpless, according to her. So when she asked him that, who did you drop your CV to? He was like, somebody on the counter, but that person looks like you. Was like, she looked back and she was like, a lot of people are on the counter, but it was definitely not me that you dropped your CV to, because if it was me, I'll have tried as much as possible to, you know, help you out with the employment that you are seeking for. The man went and came back, and he was like, I don't have any money to go home, you know, stuff like that. She was like, okay, but Baba, do you have an account number? It was like, yeah, I do have an account number. And she was like, okay, I have like 5,000 naira. Let me give you. It wasn't as if she doesn't have cash, but it was just that those cash was already meant for something else. We were like, okay, let me just do transfer of the money to you, and then she transferred 5,000 naira to the man, and he left. People at her office were like, oh, what's going on? You know, she explained. They were like, why did you not tell us so that we can even help the man? And she was like, in her head, she was like, you know what? I feel like if you give him too much, he might likely come back. Not knowing that even though she has given him something, she has opened an avenue for the man to have access to her. Then I think almost like some days, few weeks later, the man came back to that same office, and he spoke to her, and I was like, my sister, you know, I didn't get the employment, this and that, I'm looking for a security. And the girl was like, at your age, you can't be doing security, man. You're just going to enjoy yourself and so you're like, in fact, I'm going back to my village, I'm doing this, but there's no money, my child is sick. And she was like, what do you mean by your child is sick? I thought between your age, you should have children already working. I was like, no, his first child is 15 years old, you know, stuff like that. And she was like, okay, how much is the money that you want to, that is remaining for you to go to your village? According to him, he already had some money with him, but he needed more money to complete the money for them all to travel to his village so they can start farming. And then she was like, okay, no problem, let's go. She took him to the ATM POS people, and she collected 15,000 naira in his economy. She's not the owner of our office. She's also a worker. She's a 9-to-5 girlie. So it is a lot for somebody to dash you 15K as a 9-to-5 person. And then she gave the man 15,000 naira. Say, Baba, go to your village and all. And he was like, can I have your number? Another avenue for him to have access to her contact. So she gave him the number. I was like, no problem. When you get up, let me know. In the night time, she got the call again from the same man. She was like, the way he speaks, she was already familiar with the way he speaks. So she knew instantly that that was the man that she helped earlier and the man that she has helped prior weeks to that time. And it was like, oh, where are you? She was like, because the man said he was going to Akwa Ibom. Where are you? This and that. So we're like, oh no, we've not gotten to our village. We are stuck. They sent the money for the load. And that was when it dawned on her that, wait, is this man joking with me? Like, I've tried my best. Like, don't you have other people to call? Like, call other people, don't call me. And she was like, sir, please don't ever call my number again. And she dropped the call. And then she blocked his line, that particular line. Fast forwarding to that, 1 month later, she took herself out, according to her, with a friend of hers. They were like on a cute date and all. And this particular man called her using another number because she didn't even know the number. She picked it up, called her up, and it was that same man. And then the next thing she was like, sister, how are you? My sister, blah, blah, blah. The girl was like, you know when you're already fed up, those kind of sound. My mother died. And she was like, what's my business with your mother dying? If you don't want to follow your mother, please do not call my line. Like, she was so annoyed that she really, really insulted the man because she felt really played because she loves to help people. Imagine how we just wanted to render help and you are scamming her. This is a face-to-face scamming. Somebody you met and you thought you were helping is now scamming you. And that is one of the things that is very, very sad with the situation of the country. It's not only the government now, it's also the people living in the society that can be a cause of havoc, that can be a cause of pain to people. So be mindful of who you help, be mindful of what you do for people. If you want to help somebody, give them what you can and don't let them have access to your life or to where you live. If someone is looking for help from you at an office, make it clear to them that you don't want to see them after that day because it can be that they are scammers. Most of them tend to be. But for this particular topic that we're going to be discussing today, it is one of the most important conversations that I feel like every young Nigerians need to have. It is the Japa school route scam. Jackpotting is something that is very common with Nigerian youth, even a little bit older people, because of how the economy is. People are seeking greener pasture. It is not a bad thing to seek greener pasture, but because the school route is one of the most easiest way to travel out of the country, because you're paying your money and you're studying and you can easily try as much as possible to get a stay where you're going to. A lot of people tend to go for this particular route when it comes to traveling overseas, just in case you don't know what jackpot is. When it comes to this traveling out of the country, people are falling a lot of victims in the cost of trying to better their life. Imagine you trying to look for something to eat and somebody's trying to eat from you. It has been coming to my FYP page of people saying, oh, there is a school fair, there is this, there is that, free scholarship, meet your school face to face. While some of them are genuine, most of them are blantered false. It could be an avenue to kidnap, it could be an avenue to extort, it could be an avenue to, swindle, it could be an avenue to manipulate, and every other things result to either losing of life, kidnapping and collecting ransom from your family, or also losing some of your valuables and your documents being used as an identity crisis issue. These are things that are very, very important if you are trying to go for a school fair. Try as much as possible to actually research where you are going to. Now, scammers set up a lot of fake universities or colleges offering degrees and courses that are not recognized. They may have convincing website and marketing materials. Always accreditation of any institution through official education authorities in the target country. It is not bad for you to use an agent. or want to trust an agent for a process of you traveling out of the country, because it's not easy. But it is very, very wrong of you to not do your own due diligence on the schools and on the courses available in that particular school of your choosing. These are things that are very, very paramount as a young youth that is using their brain to think. These are things that are very easy to do, that they take less minutes for you to do. So don't try to fall victim of scam whilst you start blaming yourself and say, why did I not do this and that? Scam alert is just that eye opener for you in case you don't know. School route of jackpotting is a scamming opportunity. A lot of people try to use it as a scamming opportunity. There are a lot of fake agents out there. Imagine there are a lot of accredited agents, even from these schools, that doesn't collect shishi kobo from you because you want to travel. The only amount that we collect from you is your visa fees and your traveling expenses, and they would even tell you to pay for it yourself. Try as much as possible to do research. Research doesn't kill. And now I came across a video saying that if everybody that comes into the school fair walks in, as they are walking like this, they are giving you free scholarship. Everybody that is coming is free scholarship. You don't need to do interview, you don't need to submit anything, you don't need to submit any admission fee. How does that sound? So offers of scholarship that require an upfront fee, number one, or processing or application, or a guaranteed fact that you're going to get a scholarship after payment, the scholarship often turns out to be non-existent. Legitimate scholarship do not require payment. Research scholarship through recognized organizations. All of these things are available on a platter of gold online. Just click those buttons, put in the correct prompt, and you will get the research that you are looking for. Away from that now is the application fee scams. Some institutions request high application fees for processing admissions. These fees may not be refundable. Know that, may not be refundable most of the times, and the institution may be illegitimate. Check the application fee policies directly on the institution's official website. Do not leave everything for your agent to do for you. As your agent is doing it, you also research on your own, and make sure that your agent is doing whatever they are doing with your email account. So what they are getting, you are also getting it yourself. Because a lot of agents these days will use an email account. I don't know why they do that, because it is my school. I'm the one going to that school. So why are you not using my email account? So try as much as possible to be involved to the fullest, even though you are paying an agent. Do not leave all the work for the agent. Now, fraudulent agencies promise guaranteed student visas for a fee, but do not provide genuine assistance to follow through with the application. Even though if you do your due diligence, you arrange your papers very well, it is the highest likelihood of it is very, very likely for you to get an application approved on your visa. It may depend. The reason why they would actually maybe like not give you a visa, maybe your proof of fund is not sufficient, or maybe the way your documents are being put together is not correct. Nobody has the monopoly to tell you that yes, you're going to get a visa. A visa is something that's supposed to be submitted to the embassy of where you're going to. It is now left to them to give you the visa or not. It is not your agent that's giving you the visa. So that agent that is telling you that I would get you a visa is probably just joking with himself. You have to understand the fact that I would try at my best to put your document together and also do all the things necessary to be able to help you get this visa is the correct word. So use official government consulate resources for visa applications and avoid third-party agents if you can. Absolutely do so. But if you don't know how to arrange your papers, you could look for the help of an agent that is very, very good with visa applications, and also do follow up and be involved in the procedure, just for another time. And now, after enrollment, some schools promise job assistance or placement in exchange for the additional fees, but the jobs may not exist. Why on God's name would a school that you are going to outside the country promise you a job that you're supposed to pay for? It's not looking nice. So you think about it yourself. And So the thing now is that you should research the institution's job placement statistics and contact previous students for their experiences. Things are online. You could just try as much as possible to go on YouTube, check vlogs. There are people that have posted vlogs about one particular school or the other. There are YouTubers there. You can just try as much as possible to slide into their DM and ask for proper information before jumping into stuff. Let's move away from that to another important point of offers for online programs from foreign institutions that require payment but provide little to no educational value. Verify the legitimacy of online programs through reviews and university rankings. Trust me, if you don't know this now. You can email there's an email of every department, every course you are taking of those people on the official website of the school. Try as much as possible to look for the department or the course you're going to be taking. By this way, you can email the school directly, contact them through their contact numbers, and try as much as possible to verify all of these things. Guaranteed admissions is a scam. Some entities claim they can guarantee admission to popular universities for a fee, often providing no real services. Admission process should be taken seriously and are usually based on application merit. Avoid anyone making characters. Enupo, sweet mouth. That one wants to collect your money. He's not the one that's going to approve your application. If you have your qualification, my dear, you can actually get your admission. Admission is even the least of your worries when it comes to using Japa, trying to Japa using school route. You can actually do your admission yourself. If you feel like it's a little bit tasky for you, you could get an agent involved. Try as much as possible to use verified agents. And that moves us to our next point, which is the fake agent or representative. Now, agents promise to handle all aspects of the overseas education process for a significant fee, but provide inadequate or false information. That is why I'm saying that make sure they are using a Gmail account that you are aware of and you can see whatever they are doing there. Choose education agents who are certified and have positive testimonials from other students. There are a lot of them out there that even schools would definitely tell you to choose or pick from. Try as much as possible this 2026 to research, and this particular process is supposed to be a seamless one from you. Let's now talk about the preventive strategies. Do your research, investigate institutions and recruiters thoroughly. Seek official resources, use government education portals, and recognize agencies for information. Connect with alumni. Telegram is there for you for connectivity. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, everything is available for you as a human being. It now depends on you to reach out to students who have attended the institutions for their honest feedback. And always, like I always said, trust your instinct. If an offer sounds too good to be true, it is wise to be cautious. It is wise to approach it with the highest level of skepticism. Nobody is going to blame you for being too forward when it comes to you trying to secure your future. Nobody should try to manipulate you for you being inquisitive to understand what you are getting yourself into. Remember, it is your money, it is your time, it is your strength, it is your sweat, and it is your parents' hard work that they want to see you succeed in life. So be vigilant and stay informed. Students, by checking out all of these criteria, students can actually avoid falling victim to these various types of scams. If you are trying to travel out of the country this year and you are using the school route, try as much as possible to be vigilant, to be informed, to educate yourself, to do a lot of research. Do not leave all your projects in the hands of an agent. They are not the one funding your travel process. Protect yourself. Protect yourself very, very well, because you and I know that traveling out of the country, whether it is easy or not, it is a lot of money. People borrow money, take loans to travel out of the country in the essence that they would live there and come back and send back home to repay the debt. So these are things that we should actually look out for. And if you are traveling out of the country, research where you're going to. Don't go there and be stranded. And that is all I'll be taking for Scam Alert this afternoon on ConsumerHallaTV. Thank you so much for staying connected. Thank you so much for tuning in to Scam Alert, and I hope this has helped you in one way or the other. I am Kikelomo Ajibola, and you've just finished watching Scam Alert on ConsumerHallaTV. And just in case you haven't followed us across all our social media platforms, please do so. Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, and on YouTube, all at ConsumerHallaTV. Subscription is absolutely free. Thank you so much for staying connected.
Good afternoon, viewers. You're welcome to another edition of Real Estate Today on Consumer Halla TV, on your verified source for real estate updates, policy changes, and consumer protection insights across Nigeria and beyond. I know you guys would have been expecting is Elizabeth and our partner in crime. Will they be around today? Obviously, we just took a little time off, but then we are fully back, and we are not even back just like that. We brought like a third wheel on the show, and yes, I am Elizabeth Abefe, as you already know, and I don't walk alone. I have my partner in crime, but then today there will be a mini twist on the show. But before I introduce the third wheel, let's go over to Irimofe.
Interesting one. So the partner in crime today. Anyway, and you are not even afraid that we have someone that can actually sue you on the show. you decide to use that term. I mean, I don't know nothing about any crime anyway. Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Today, where we talk about everything real estate. But like Elizabeth rightly said, my partner, but not in crime. Today is going to be a bit of some twist because we want to delve into something that is very important, and as you know, on this show you always get educated about everything related to real estate and the laws in particular. So I am Iremofe Koforola. It's good to be here today.
Okay, yes, moving on. Today there won't be a headline, but today we'll be talking about something very crucial, just like Iremofe stated. Today we'll be looking at the tenancy law and protection in Nigeria. That will be the major topic for today, Real Estate Today on the show. But first, what is tenancy law? Tenancy law refers to the legal framework that regulates the relationship between a landlord and a tenant, defining their respective rights and obligation regarding a rented property. That is what the dictionary gave to us. But then we actually do have a legal practitioner here with us, and joining us today is a legal expert, Alex Afolalu, a Nigerian lawyer with almost a decade of legal practice, and he is the managing partner of Alex Afolalu and Co., a property and corporate law firm in Nigeria. He is committed to protecting investors and helping Nigerians make informed property decisions. So today, he will help us break down tenancy law, landlord obligation, and documentation processes. You know, over the time, we're always giving them on our own perspective, what we understand about it.
But I just want to be, I think I'll be on the side of the landlord today, because it's always beautiful to be a landlord.
Okay, I understand what you did there right now.
Oh yeah, come on.
Okay, we all know these issues. Many Nigerians struggle to navigate. So this conversation will be like an eye-opening, whereby we'll have our guest here, Barrister Alex Afolalu, to help us portray some points, open our eyes to some things we really do not have idea to. So today we will be asking you concerning the tenant rights.
Yes.
Yeah. What are the laws backing up tenants and protecting them against violations in violations in Nigerians? What are those laws? As a tenant, you must know your rights from the left, just like. But then we want to know.
Are there specific laws that back up as a tenant? She's a tenant, and because I can't really say I'm a landlord. And are there laws specifically for tenants like so that to against any form of violation from a landlord like me?
Yeah, I see. Yes, thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah.
It's a great honor to be here. Yeah, so more often than not, the relationship between a landlord and a tenant doesn't have to be a very difficult one, actually. As long as the both understand the fact that there are actually some laws that are actually guiding their relationship. And if they adhere to these laws, there won't really be a problem. So going speaking on your question, what are the laws guiding tenants in Nigeria? Well, the first thing is actually the Constitution, right? That's the ground norm. That's the foundation of actually, of every law in Nigeria. That's the foundation, right? Then we have a tenancy law of each state. Now in Lagos State, we have a Lagos State Tenancy Law of 2011. Now then we also have a court or the judicial system rules. Now those three things put together, they are there to actually protect, the tenant, and also guide the relationship that actually exists between the landlord and the tenant. Yes.
Interesting one, because sometimes, like you said, each state has their tenancy law that protects the tenants. And we know that sometimes people don't even bother about all these things, and they just sometimes want to rent an apartment. You are just, because sometimes, especially in a city like Lagos, that it's quite difficult to get apartments. So you are just in a hurry. You see the apartment and you're like, let me just move in and all that. So at the end of the day, you begin to have a kind of friction between the landlord and the tenant.
Yeah.
So we've had so many cases. Sometimes the landlord just, he comes, he wakes up one morning and like, yes, I was citing this on the show.
Yeah.
I said I know a friend that lives in an apartment, and the landlord just decided that, you know, one thing today, your rent is 750, but from tomorrow start paying 1.5 million.
Can you imagine that? That's serious.
And my friend was telling me like, the tenant decided to, you know, speak with the landlord. They held a meeting, and at the end they said, no. If you are not comfortable with that, just move out.
Wow.
So what can we say? We've seen cases like this happen many times, and at the end of the day, you just have to pay because it's quite difficult getting another apartment. So what do you have to say? Are there laws stipulated for, you know, these are the periods you are meant to rent an apartment? And again, to follow up on that question, there are times you want to rent an apartment, they tell you have to pay 2 years upfront. If you don't pay 2 years, you can't get the apartment. So are there laws that say, okay, you can pay 10 years, or there are, you know, specific periods you are meant to pay, and, you know, can the landlord increase rent as we are just like, yeah.
Okay. Well, when it comes to incrementing rent, I must first of all state categorically that the landlord has a right to increase the rent of his house. As a way, of course, the tenants don't want to hear anything increment. Like, what do you mean? Don't you know? And just don't increase rent. The landlord actually has a right to increase the
rent.
His rent, the rent of his house. But then there's actually a way to go about it. Now, the first thing is actually the landlord is not allowed to increase his rent arbitrarily. You can't just say that your tenant was paying ₦1 million just last year, and this year is going to be 3 million naira. No, that's arbitrary and very unfair. So if you are a landlord and you want to actually increase your rent, first of all, you have to issue a written notice. You just don't come and say, your rent yesterday was 750, and today is 1.5. No, that's how it's done. So you have to issue a proper written notice. The increment has to be reasonable, reasonable to common sense. That's the second thing. And the third thing is that you have to follow due process. That means that you have to serve the notice, you have to give the tenant time. You have to be open to negotiation. You can't just say, I'm taking it to so amount of money and that's just gonna be it. What are the reasons behind that? Is it as a result of the inflation rate in the country? Are you open to make some renovations? Why are you increasing the rent of why are you increasing the rent of the house? Right. So you should be able to state reasons why you're actually doing all of this. And also as a tenant where your landlord has actually increased the rent of his house, I think the first thing to do is not to panic. That's not the first thing to do. The first thing to do is to ask the question: has due process been followed? Did you get a written notice? Have you been given enough reasonable amount of time? And also, the landlord is not actually allowed to increase it because both of you had an altercation. Okay, you're talking to me anyhow. I'm old enough to be your daddy. And he goes ahead and actually increases the rent like times 3. You're not allowed to increase rent as a means of as a means to
show superiority.
Exactly. That's not actually allowed. It's not meant to be an expectative means. That's one. And also, you are not allowed to increase rent as a way to force out the tenant. Like, you don't want to leave my house. When I take your rent from 1 million naira to 5 million naira, nobody will teach you leave my house when you cannot pay it. No, that's not actually allowed. So in the event where the landlord actually increases rent arbitrarily, unlawfully, the tenant has a right to approach the tenancy tribunal in the states, or even the courts. And now the court has a right to look into the matter and say these increments cannot actually stand.
Wow.
Yes, the court does. The tenancy tribunal does. They have the right to review the increments. Well, all things being equal, when a tenant is actually served with a notice of increment, both tenant and landlord should actually come to the negotiation table and actually see how both of them can actually reach a consensus as to what the rent is going to be going forward. Yes, and with respect to your question as to whether a landlord can actually ask for 2 years of which is actually very common in Lagos State. Well, I'd say no, and I'll say yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, So the answer to that question is this: depending on the location.
Oh, okay.
Now, the general rule is that a landlord is not actually meant to collect more than a year rent. That's the general rule. Paying more than a year rent is a criminal offense.
Okay.
Collecting more than a year rent is also a criminal offense.
Okay.
But that doesn't actually apply to every area in Lagos.
Oh.
Yes. So there are actually some areas in Lagos whereby the landlord is actually allowed to charge more than a year's rent.
Oh.
Yes.
Please, what are the locations so that I won't bother going to the such locations?
Okay. There are actually quite a few of them.
Okay.
But then the general rule is that
A year.
it's actually and it's a criminal offense to charge more than a year rent and also pay more than a year rent. So it's not just
from the landlord.
I'm paying you rent. Don't worry, you are going to prison. Even if I'm paying more than a year rent, you are also liable as well.
Oh,
yes. So yes.
So now what you're saying is that if landlord Juremofe decide to ask me tenant Elizabeth to pay more than a year,
yes,
I can actually sue him.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Usually the way it works is that if you are still in the house, that can actually work. But if you're about to get into the house, you're just like
you just go elsewhere.
You might have to actually go elsewhere.
So that means even if I ask, for instance, like as a landlord, thank God she acknowledged. So if she wants to move into my house and I'm like, okay, just pay 2 years upfront, and she decided to pay even without say, actually, like I'm a big lady, I can pay, and she ended up paying. That means what she has done is also criminal for her to have even paid the 2 years.
Yes.
It's
okay. You also stated about the written notice and enough time, whereby a landlord can actually, before he can hike the price or just wake up one day and say he wants to hike the price, they have to be written notice also a lot of time. Then you also mention that if they didn't give you a written notice and time, then there's tenancy arbitrary, right?
The tenancy tribunal.
Tenancy tribunal, whereby they can sit, whereby the tenants can actually tender this case and all of that.
Very well.
Is that what you're saying right
now? Very well.
Okay.
So I would just also want to know, what's their time, that period? Is it a period of 6 months, or a year, or just 4 months? So because if you just say time, now you can say, okay, let's look 2 weeks. So
yeah, even saying 2 weeks. 24 hours. Or 3 days.
I'm giving you time.
So time is time. So let's just be clear on that time.
Yeah. So when it comes to time, it depends on the nature of the tenancy. Now, for instance, if you are a 1 month tenant, you pay every month. You can't expect your landlord to give you 1 year notice of increments. It is not just reasonable.
Okay.
Right. So if you pay yearly, I would say, to my mind, I would say that a reasonableness would be 6 months or more.
Before the can be increments.
Yeah, like okay. By so time I'm gonna be increasing so amount of money, So it's about 6 months or more.
Okay.
Actually. So it all depends on the nature of the tenant. Is he a monthly tenant? Is he a yearly tenant? So we have to actually, look at all of that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. My next question would have been, what legal protection that exists for tenants when rent is increased? But then you make mention of tenancy tribunal,
and the
I
courts.
Guess, and the courts.
Yes.
So I guess that is settled right now. Yeah. So okay. What can a tenant do if a landlord issues an improper eviction notice? But then you've explained that too.
Okay.
Yeah, you've make mention of
the fact that even if there's a eviction notice, that you can actually sue the landlord if, for instance, it does not follow due process. Okay. You understand that sense? But I would still want you to shed more light on it, because there are times that it's even from the tenants now, not the landlord. The landlord we have tenants whereby, because we are still going to come, and address issues about the landlords now. But looking at the fact that some tenants are just so, I don't know what to say. So now the landlord has given them eviction notice that leave the house, but they are like, no, I won't leave. Now in such situation now let's turn the table, let's flip it. Now what should because you're looking at tenants on the tenancy law, it also involves the landlord because it's both relationship on that side. Now you have been given quick notice or eviction notice, you don't want to leave. What should the landlord do to ensure that this person that does not want to leave my house, that is frustrating my life, what should he do or should the landlady do to ensure that everything goes smoothly?
So you're actually asking on behalf of the landlord?
Yes, as the landlord.
That you are.
Yes.
That you are.
Right. So one thing I must state categorically is this: that if you are a landlord, you need to understand that while you have the power to put a tenant in your house, you may not have all the power to throw that tenant out, as you may think.
Wow.
Yes. Only the court has the right and the power to, to fully or finally evict the tenant. Actually, so I think it's important that for everyone to actually have that at the back of their mind. Now, to your question, what are the due process? What should you do? Now, the first thing you have to do is to issue proper notice. This is very important. Now, you don't backdate your notice to quit. It's only going to allow your tenant to spend more time in your house.
Wow.
So if the law, if your tenant is a yearly tenant, issue your clear 6 month notice to quit. Issue your clear 6 month notice to quit. At the expiration of the notice to quit, when you go ahead and serve a 7 days owner's intention to apply to court to recover possession, it's called 7 days notice.
Okay.
And afterwards, you now go to court to fight for possession.
Wow.
It's a process, really. And after you've got to go to fight for possession, you get a judgment. Now, after you've got the judgment, you say, hey, I don't have a judgment now. You now start going, go and start packing, your tenants load out. Don't do that. Now, you have to now wait for the sheriff or the court's belief to actually come and move the tenant out in the event where he or she fails to move out. So it's actually a process.
It's a process.
So before you put it everybody else, you need to know that getting them out is not going to be as easy as getting them in. Yes.
Now I know as a landlord.
Okay, then moving on, before we go on a short break, there's this particular one that tenant and landlord are always having issue all the time, whether it is right for landlord to disconnect lights or disconnect water between the landlord and tenants. But then before you answer that, let's go on a short break.
Hey there, do you know in the world today, everyone is a consumer, and as consumers, we all have the right to be heard.
In Nigeria today, as a consumer, you have all right to product information, right to fair pricing, right to return goods, right to product labeling, right to fair dealings, and a lot more.
Well then, have you heard about the new media channel?
ConsumerHallaTV.
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 At ConsumerHallaTV, our goal is to inform and educate consumers in Nigeria with insightful news alongside development within the fast-paced world of consumers through well-researched, specialized, and analytical content.
Our vision at ConsumerHallaTV is to create an engaging platform that provides right connections for meaningful brands in Nigeria, thus creating a more caring world for consumers where business thrive.
And guess what? Our ConsumerHalla brand is the first consumer complaint resolution portal in Nigeria, powered by a 72-hour feedback mechanism. We offer consumer advocacy, informative talk shows, branding promotions, advertising, and lots more. Connect with us via our YouTube channel at ConsumerHallaTV. Follow us on our Facebook page, ConsumerHallaTV, our Instagram page, ConsumerHallaTV, and do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscription is free. ConsumerHallaTV. At ConsumerHallaTV, you deserve to be helped. At ConsumerHallaTV, you deserve to be heard.
That was so insightful. Behind the scene, we've been saying a lot and lot. Whereas I've been telling Amiru Mofe should not try me because now I know my rights. Well, so moving on, I asked the question before we went on a short break. I said, is it legal for a landlord to disconnect water or electricity?
Yes, or sometimes, let me add to that, it's not just water and electricity. They just make life.
Even the roof.
Yes, even the roof. Because I saw a video, let me just ship you this thing. I think it's similar.
Okay.
Somebody rented, it's not an apartment now, a shop where she, does her regular thing. So she was, I can't remember what caused the altercation between both of them. Then she was leaving. I think this might just be a second question to that. Then she decided to remove everything. It could even happen in some apartments. Now that it's connected, the water or whatever, then you as a tenant not be okay. Now it's two people fighting. Let me also, anything I bought with my money in the house, I can decide to disconnect. You understand? Maybe it's anything you just. So in that situation now, is it right for a landlord to do that? And is it also right for a tenant to do the same thing?
Okay. Yeah, so two questions actually. Yeah, so a landlord is not allowed to cut water supply, or cut electricity, or remove the roof, or remove the window as a means to foster the tenant. That is harassment.
Okay.
That is also resorting to self-help. It is a criminal offense, and landlord can actually be sued for damages for doing that. Wow.
The landlord can be sued for damages for doing
And if he's not
all
careful,
that.
he can even go to jail for that.
Wow.
That's the way.
Every landlord, please be careful.
So you're not allowed to resort to self-help and harassment of your tenants. You're not allowed to do that. If you want your tenant out, follow due legal process. Yes.
Then what about the situation of the tenants not doing that? And okay, now I'm not even, the landlord didn't disconnect anything. Probably it's time to leave the apartment. Then there are no issues there. Nobody's forcing me out. But okay, I remember that when I came, I painted this room.
Okay.
I bought all of these things. Then this roof wasn't like this. Okay, let me take everything I bought with my money. At least it's my hard-earned money. Okay. So, and I'm taking it away. So, what I've done is criminal.
So I want to get your question very clearly.
Yeah.
So before. Okay, when you got to the apartment, you did some renovations that you bought?
Yes,
you did some renovations?
Yes. Like for instance, a friend of mine, when he moved into an apartment, then they weren't burglary there. Okay, so he bought that with it. Yes, all those things. Even the bedroom, there were some renovations he did there. Okay. So although he didn't remove anything, as a nice guy anyway, but I just want to know, some people might believe that yes, I'm leaving the house, I spent money on it. Then the new house I'm going, would I have to go and spend so? Is it criminal for me to remove all those things that I bought with my money?
With your money.
Yes.
Well, it all depends on quite a number of things.
Okay.
The first thing is this: what is the agreement between you and the landlord?
Oh.
It does not make sense for you to just go to somebody else's house and you are repairing the house and you're doing structural repairs. It doesn't really make sense. Now people do that, and whatever amount they spend, they actually use that as rent.
Okay.
Now in the event where you've done that and used the money as rent, and you're not going, that's the move that thing. That's stealing. That's stealing actually. And you should be arrested for stealing. Anything that does that should be arrested for stealing.
But I don't think in Nigeria here it's possible whereby they tell you, oh, you pay for it, maybe you won't pay rent this month. I don't think it's
the money is spent and
it does happen.
We're still talking about the agreement. What if we had the agreement that when you are, because sometimes the only issue might then be like, okay, we've agreed, spend your money, when you are leaving, you can take anything. Then the landlord feel like, no, I've changed my mind. Then there's no legal written agreement to back it up. So what happens in such situation?
The position of the law is that before you do any renovation on anybody's property, there should actually be an agreement.
Wow.
So any renovation you do where there's no written agreement, it's to your detriment.
Wow. Interesting.
Yes.
So behind the scene, we talked about whereby sometimes when we have stubborn tenants, I know where you've talked about, okay, it has to be by process. There are a lot of process that goes by here. You said 6-month notice, then another 7 days.
All of
Then
the
yes.
sheriff, you wait for the sheriff.
So now I want to ask, what is the legal process for removing a difficult tenant? Okay, after all this
yes,
process.
now they've asked you to leave.
Yes.
Yes, I know. They've asked you to leave. They've gone to court and all of even the court. They've come to say, okay, please, we are begging you now, leave. But like, no, I'm not leaving. My destiny is just to stay. So in such situation, what will happen at the end of the day?
Okay, well, first of all, a tenant's destiny cannot be in the landlord's house forever.
Exactly.
You know, so once the landlord has followed due process, which are first of all issue a notice to quit, and afterwards a 7 days notice, and afterwards go to court and fight for possession. And when you get judgment to take possession, don't rush in there and try to take possession. You have to wait for the sheriff of the court or the court's belief to actually come and execute that judgment. And more often than not, what they do is that they move they pack the load of the tenant. They enter his house into his apartment. The pack is there and move everything outside.
Okay.
And
It's the courts anyway.
Yeah, I mean exactly, and then they hand you the keys.
That's
Yes, so you're not meant to be directly involved in the process. What you have to do is to set the machinery of the law in motion. That's your job as a landlord, and that's the reason why you have to be careful for putting anybody in your house. And that's also where tenancy agreement actually comes to play. So the tenancy agreement allows you to be able to regulate, the rules that you actually want to play by. But it is either a tenancy relationship. Is that a tenancy relationship is subject to the law or a tenancy agreement? So if you have a tenancy agreement in place, your tenancy relationship with your tenant is going to be subject purely to the law of that particular state. But when you have a tenancy agreement in play, you can always, circumvent some things. Right? You can say, you know what, for me, I'm going to be able to issue you the 6 months notice to quit, but I can give you 2 months notice to quit.
based on deal.
Yeah, based on the agreement. You can say, okay, you know what, once your rent expires and a day after you do not pay, you're no longer my tenant. Right? You can have all of that in your tenancy agreement. So, but then if your tenancy agreement is, you don't have a tenancy agreement, right, the law will actually take its full